Hey guys, this is Jacob. I'm here reviewing Marvel's The Defender Season 1. It is a culmination of a couple of Netflix shows, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist. And honestly, I enjoyed this show because I usually don't finish entire season of shows when they're brand new. So that's something in and of itself. I watched all 8 episodes, and I feel like the 8 episode format was good for this show. If they had tried to make it 13, it would have been way too long. I really don't think that every Netflix show needs to be 13 episodes like the original run of these Netflix shows are. And I feel like that this season was a very entertaining season because the action sequences are good. They're not great. They're not next level quite as much as Daredevil, which had like just some of the best choreography I've ever seen on a television show for fighting, and it was just amazing to see his fights, and they were so perfectly staged and so intense and suspenseful. And while these fights are not quite that level, watching these superheroes throw down people is just wonderful, and the way they choreograph most of the fights works really well. Now, there are some of the fights that are really choppily edited, and some of the fights have some really questionable choreography, but they're nowhere near as bad as the really awful fight choreography and fight scenes in Iron Fist. So most of the fight scenes in this show deliver. So that really helps make this entertaining for those who want to watch a summer popcorn flick as a television show, basically. And also, it really helps this show a lot that you have 4 main actors who are all dedicated to their roles. And Sigourney Weaver, of course, also plays a villain, and she does a good job. She's not great in this role. She doesn't do anything groundbreaking, but she simply makes her character human, which is very important because she's not going, I'm evil, and she's not going like Christoph Waltz does in some ways where he's like, I'm insane and I'm evil, or Jesse Eisenberg where he's like, hey, Batman, Superman, you guys just met. Like he does. But anyway, I feel like Sigourney Weaver did good, and I feel like Charlie Cox was good as Daredevil. Daredevil really goes through the most, I feel like, in the season as a character, in my opinion. I feel like he's the emotional center of the show, and he makes it work a lot of the times. And I also thought that Kristen Ritter did a good job of bringing humor to the table and also making it convincing that her character cares when she does, and makes it convincing that she doesn't care when she says she doesn't. And you can just, like, you see she brings such a dynamic because she's so different than the rest of the Defenders, and I love seeing those characters interact with her. And also Mike Coulter as Luke Cage was excellent. He did a really great job of playing, well, I consider him to be like Captain America in a way because he's more streetwise, but he just wants to do the right thing no matter what, and I feel like he brought a lot to his role. And Finn Jones even did a better job than he did as Iron Fist in Season 1 of Iron Fist. And I feel like all these heroes had really good chemistry together, and that's very important. That's part of the reason the Avengers work so well, is that those characters bounce off each other so well, and those actors are just such great chemistry together, and it makes you care about these people, even when they're in the midst of ridiculous situations. And speaking of ridiculous situations, the plot of this show is generic at times, but most of the time the pacing is good enough to get you through it. There are some episodes where they start out with exposition laden things, but they usually cut into something more interesting by the end of the episode, and even the slowest episodes have some really great fight scenes by the end of them. Like the 7th episode or so, almost nothing big happens with the big fights until towards the end. But there are things going on, but it's just not as interesting till the end of that episode. And so there are some pacing issues, but most of the pacing works, most of the action works, and the performances work. But what bothers me about the Defender Season 1 is the writing. There are some lines of dialogue that are so cheesy, mainly said by supporting villains, not Sigourney Weaver, that just come off cheesy and that are so one-dimensional and bland, and it's disappointing because they do so good with Sigourney Weaver's character. And the character who's a mentor to what's her name? Hold on one second. I think her name is, let's see, Colleen Wing. The mentor to Colleen Wing, he's really just boring and bland, in my opinion. But so with that in mind, there are some characters who are boring, bland, some dialogue is boring, bland, and also I can't talk about the ending all the way. I'll talk about it spoiler free. The ending is disappointing. It is a copy of something that happens in the Avengers and Batman vs. Superman, and pretty much every team up thing lately, there's always just got to be something that happens right at the end to make it feel like something was at stake more than it was, and then you have to cheapen it by fixing that problem. And I get that it plays along with the comics, but to me, what makes these characters relatable is when they suffer, and when they're suffering, and then you just bail them out of it completely. It cheapens the experience, and I'm really tired of Netflix doing that. It ends too much like Daredevil season 2, and that's because the showrunners were in charge of Daredevil season 2, and you can really tell because Daredevil season 2 was not as good as season 1, and this doesn't have the Punisher in it, so it's not as good as Daredevil season 2. So as far as Netflix goes, I would say that this show has some great moments. It has some really good moments, but it's really just a good show. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I watched it thoroughly. I watched all 80 episodes. It's easy to watch, but in the end, it just disappointed me that the ending was the way it was, and some of the villains disappointed me, and some of the dialogue, some of the editing, and a few of the fights. But a lot of what mattered most delivered, and it's worth watching for sure. And I believe that if they make season 2, they give it to different writers, different showrunners, I think it could get better and better if they keep doing that. And if they add more characters, I hope that they keep it balanced. And I like the main cast here, and I hope that they continue to build on this and improve upon it. It is a solid foundation for future Defenders seasons, and I hope that we get to see more of them soon. So, what did you guys think? Did you like the Defender season 1? Are you going to watch The Punisher next? Are you excited for the future of Netflix Marvel TV shows, or you just don't care? Just let me know in the comment section below. Thank you, guys.